I'm Shannon Cochran with today's Lady Virtue. Thank you for joining us again this week for Talkie. As you know, last week we talked about cooking part one, cooking for yourself when you have roommates. And this week we're continuing with part two. I have a special guest that I can't wait to introduce you to. But first, this is your opportunity to grab your drink whatever you're bringing to coffee or Talkie this week, and then I will introduce you to Anna Banana. So you were probably wondering why there was this random banana sitting on this table because you were probably looking for props. Because what is Talkie without props? So Anna Banana is the one responsible party who made me an aunt. So she is my beautiful niece. She's a college student now, and so she's going to come on this talkie today. I'm so excited that she's here. She's going to be sharing something that she's been working on a couple of years, just a way that God is working in her life in the area of eating and meal prepping. So, without further ado, Anna Banana, tell us a little bit about where you are right now and how you got started with meal prepping.
Amazing. Well, hello. Thank you so much for having me. Again, like you just said, my name is Anna, and I'm a student at the University of Arkansas, up in Fayetteville. So I'm a sophomore right now, and this is my first year that I'm living alone and by myself. And so I've had to take on cooking for myself and feeding myself and making food, which has honestly been a whole bunch of fun. Um, but for the past probably 2 years, I've really seen the importance of eating well, eating enough, eating often enough, and just seeing the value behind the nutrition and just fueling your body, you know? And so in college, now that I'm on my own, I've made it a priority to continue working on that and continue fueling my body in a way that glorifies the Lord. So, yeah,
I love that. That is amazing because you are what, 19?
19. Yes, ma'am.
Thinking these mature thoughts before your brain is fully developed. That's awesome. But before we get too far, let's just invite the Lord into our conversation today. Yeah, Lord, we love you. We invite you to meet us right here, wherever we're at, and that you would just speak to us about eating. And you thought about eating before you even put any living thing on the earth. You made things that were useful for food. And I pray that you would just work in our minds today. You help us to have uh, your perspective on caring for our bodies. And please teach us something today. And thank you that Anna joined us. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Um, Anna, did you bring anything to drink to Taki?
I did. I have my mint tea with some honey.
That sounds
Yep. It's
wonderful.
probably my favorite hot drink with the honey specifically.
I love that. That's awesome. Well, Aunt Shannon is drinking dark coffee, as usual in my
Amazing.
GMOM mug. My little grandson's playing soccer today, so that's exciting.
Mhm.
All right. Well, when you got started meal prepping, you said it was a couple years
Yeah.
ago. Yeah, so can you tell us a little bit about how you got started?
Yeah, so I started cooking for myself a lot more during my junior year of high school. Um, And I think the thing that kind of influenced that the most was meeting with a dietitian and a nutritionist and kind of just learning the value of eating well, and eating with good habits. And so I started meal prepping as one of my ways to be able to hit all those goals. 'Cause it's easy, it's quick, I can just run in the fridge, grab a meal, and it's really convenient. And so that's kind of what I aim for whenever I'm cooking at all is convenience. That's probably the biggest thing. And so as I spent a couple years in high school trying to eat conveniently and trying to make my meals quick and easy, obviously I was at home. So most of my meals were home cooked meals. by my mom, or just with the family. But I had a great amount of meals that were cooked by myself. So I got some practice at home.
Yeah.
And now that I'm here on my own, I'm able to take those skills here and really just make my meals convenient and quick and easy. And that's worked really, really well for me in my really busy schedule. So,
Yes. So
yeah,
scheduling, that's a big deal. So
yeah.
it sounds like you're saying you need it to be convenient, but
Hmm.
you need some systems in order for this meal prepping to happen. There has to be a little bit of order, there has to be a little bit of planning. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the systems that you're using to set aside the time to be able to get the groceries, make the food, and
Yeah.
even the planning?
Yeah, so typically my schedule is on the weekends, I will grocery shop and cook for the most part. And then throughout the week, I will just use the meals that I've already cooked or prepared. And that should hopefully last me the whole week. So obviously, with my schedule, I have classes all 5 days of the week, um, of the weekdays. And then the weekends is really my time to go grocery shopping, plan out my meals, cook for myself. I'll spend entire afternoons cooking some weeks, which is really, really good. My process usually looks like some planning on Friday and Saturday, grocery shopping either Saturday and Sunday, and then usually cooking on Sunday. I think the cooking is, I personally enjoy cooking, so it's really therapeutic and fun to just spend an afternoon cooking for myself, you know?
Cool.
Yeah,
Could you give me a little glimpse into the kitchen when you're cooking? Like, do you have music on? Are you listening to a podcast? Is the
yeah.
Bible app playing? Like, what does that look like?
For sure. I always have something playing, whether that's music or a show playing on my iPad. I always have something in the background. Um, it's just fun, you know, it makes the environment fun and enjoyable, whether it's music, a podcast, whatever. I like to have something to fill the silence. So,
That's so
yeah.
cool. Now, making food, it costs money
Yeah.
to make food. So do you have a budget? How does that work? And is it cheaper to meal plan?
Yeah, so obviously I'm a college student. I don't have all the money in the world. And obviously whenever I'm hanging out with friends, most of the time we're gonna go out to eat somewhere, as most college students and people do. And I found on average a meal eating out is around $11. Obviously that varies with what you get, what you don't get. But typically I found that meals eating out are about $11. That compared to meal prepping is significantly cheaper. So my grocery runs on average are about 60 to $75,
Hmm.
give or take a little bit depending on what I get. And typically that can make at least 10 meals and a number of snacks. And so I'll prep them on Sunday, or just make them convenient to grab and go throughout the week. And that obviously $60, $70 for 10 to 15 meals is going to be a lot cheaper than $11 per meal. So, as someone who's trying to save on money and eat healthier and just have food at home, that's definitely a way to go. And I still eat out sometimes. I'll still go get food with friends, of course. Um, but from my experience, it is significantly cheaper to be cooking at home. And I know there are a lot of people that agree with that. So
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely cheaper. And in
Yeah.
part one of this conversation, talking with David, he
Yeah.
noted he spent like $50 a week
Mm.
just on his food, and it was so much cheaper than going
Right.
out and paying that every 3 meals a day. And
Right.
so what are the meals that you typically eat? Like how many meals? You said two or three.
Yeah. Yeah, so usually every week, and this goes way back into high school, I would have about two or three quick and easy recipes kind of just on the tip of my mind. Um, just quick and easy stuff that I can do. I would have two or three that I would rotate through, and that changes every so often. But just having these quick and easy recipes on my mind, like, hey, I'm hungry. I have this ingredient. I have that ingredient. I made this yesterday. I could make it again. And so that's kind of what I've done again for the past 2 years, just having some quick and easy recipes where I know I like it, I know I can make it, and I know I have the stuff for it this week. So might as well make it. I guess I'll run through kind of my breakfast, lunch,
Yeah,
dinner as
breakfast, lunch,
well.
dinner.
My goal throughout the day is to eat every 3 to 4 hours, something. To have something every 3 to 4 hours, whether that's a granola bar or a full meal, just something every 3 to 4 hours. And that's something that I was taught, learned through my nutritionist in my sophomore year of high school. She very much so harped on the idea of eating every 3 hours. That's probably a good rate for most people. And so that's my goal. So my breakfast in the morning is typically smaller. Again, I'm running to classes. I have 8 a.m.s, so I am trying to get enough sleep as well. So sometimes I'll push it a little close and only have time to grab a half of a bagel or a little yogurt container. But as long as I get something, that's good enough for me, you know? So I'll usually have a small breakfast, whether that be a thing of cottage cheese, yogurt, whatever. And then I'll usually have a brunch or an earlier lunch, which is hopefully a heartier meal. Um, and then a snack around 2 or 3. And then or lunch at 2 or 3, and then something around 5 o'clock, and then hopefully a dinner after that. And so that's kind of more or less my schedule. Breakfast is typically smaller, and then I'll have a snack, and then a bigger lunch, and then another snack, and then a bigger dinner. So that's kind of what I go for, and I have different recipes for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which I can get into as well.
Yeah, sure. Talk about that. Tell us some of your favorites, some of your go-tos, and maybe where you get the inspiration for
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, so some of my favorites, I like making pasta a lot. You'll see in some of my photos, I make meal prep spaghetti and pasta a lot, which is just quick and easy. I'm a big fan of pasta, you know? So pasta and then chicken and rice. You can't go wrong with chicken and rice. It reheats, it's easy to make. If you season it up right and put the right sauces, delicious. So I'm a big fan of chicken and rice and pasta. And then I'll occasionally make sort of bowls, like Mediterranean bowls. And so one of my favorites, I don't know what you would call it, but it's chicken and rice with hummus, cucumbers, and feta. And you just kind of sprinkle it all together, and it's really, really great. Um, and that's delicious for a lunch or whatever. The only problem with that I have found is obviously it's going to be difficult to reheat cucumbers and hummus, right? And so what I'll typically do for recipes like that is I will have the reheatable ingredients in the fridge, or I'll have them separate. Right. So I'll have the chicken and the rice in a container to reheat, and then I'll have the cucumbers and hummus in their own separate containers, so I can just add them on top and it'll still be cold. So those are some of my go-to meals. I also have a couple of go-to snacks as well that I can go over.
Sure. What are your go-to snacks?
Yeah, so recently, one of my favorites has been cottage cheese and sausage, which I never really
Interesting.
saw as an option until recently. But I found that a thing of sausage and cottage cheese, like a big tub of it, costs about $10. And I can have 4 or 5 different snacks made up of that. And it's good protein, it's a lot of protein, good fats in the cottage cheese. So that's a hearty snack. And then I also, obviously, apples and peanut butter. That's always a go-to. And then one of my favorite desserts are peanut butter and honey dates. And so I
Ooh,
sent you a picture of those, but they're dates with peanut butter, and then you put chocolate chips and honey on the top of it. And so those
sounds
are
delicious.
really great snack. Absolutely love it. And it's a nice little sweet treat. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
So you live off campus and
Mhm.
you make your meals at home and you want to eat every 3 hours.
Yeah.
How do you, like, what do you take to school? Where do you eat these meals and
Yeah.
snacks?
Yeah. So I will say it definitely, I am off campus. So I was about to get a meal plan for on campus. Um, but actually ended up not getting a meal plan for on campus. So what I typically do, I have classes from 8 a.m. to about 10:30 and noon on different days. And so what I'll do is I will have my breakfast in the morning, and depending on the day, I try to make it a little bit harder because I know that I will be hungry with longer classes. So I eat my breakfast in the morning, and then I always have granola bars and cashews and snacks that I will throw in my backpack just to have something to kind of hold me over.
Yeah.
So I always have a granola bar and cashews in a little Ziploc baggie in my bag. And there are definitely times where I am still hungry and I can't really go home yet. So I will buy a meal on campus or I'll buy a slice of pizza from the pizza shop. Um, just something I know myself. I know that I get hungry and it's okay to go and spend $4 on a slice of pizza to hold me over. So,
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing about that. What about resources? What are some of the resources, if any, that you use to find your recipes, or maybe that you haven't used and would like to use, or
yeah. Yeah, so I think my biggest resource is honestly social media. So people share a lot of great recipes on social media. People talk about meal prep a lot on social media, nutrition. And that's where I found a lot of my inspiration for not only my meals, but just different habits of eating. Um, I don't have any specific people that I follow, um, but there are a whole bunch of recipes out there. There are a whole bunch of systems. Um, that and Pinterest. Pinterest is good too. They have a lot of good recipes. So yeah, social media I'd say is where I find the majority of my recipes, which I think is a good resource.
what are some of the items that you needed to be able to do meal
Yeah.
prepping?
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, when meal prepping and just in general, storage containers are important, are a must. And so I have a variety of different types of storage containers, and that's one thing I need to do is have more consistently
Mhm.
sized containers. But I have a whole bunch of containers, predominantly from Target. So Target actually has a section in my local Target in the very, very back, where they have Ziploc bags, and beside the Ziploc bags, they have these big bulk containers for meal prep, designed for meal prep. So they have like a pack of six in one container for $6 or something like that. So I have one of those. So I have six pretty evenly sized containers. And then I have some smaller containers, which I'll put fruit, and the dates that I was talking about earlier, put those in there. Um, but yeah, Target has definitely been a go-to for that because they have that section with these containers, um, decently priced for a good amount of them. So
Do you use
specifically.
containers that you can reheat in, like a glass container or plastics or anything specific
Yeah,
on
I make sure that all of the containers that I buy can be reheated because that's kind of the big, for me at least, for meal prepping, I'm preparing meals that need to be reheated in one way or another, or will be much better reheated. So that's definitely a big priority for me when I'm getting containers. And I have definitely stayed away from some containers because they can't be reheated as well. So that's something to definitely keep in mind. When you're meal prepping, you need to look at meals that can be reheated. If you have a meal that's going to be just unappealing after 3 days of sitting in the fridge, it probably shouldn't be meal prepped. And that's something that I've kind of had to learn because there are definitely recipes that do not sit in the fridge well. And unfortunately, I have found as much as I love pasta and as how easy it is, pasta is one of them that if you leave it too long in the fridge, it's difficult to
it?
reheat and still taste good. So, that's something to definitely keep in mind when you're choosing recipes. Is that it's going to be sitting in your fridge for a couple days. So you need to make sure that it's something that can sit in the fridge for a couple days and be reheated and still be yummy. So,
That's a
yeah.
great point. Well, so what are some of the uh, improvements that you've made upon your systems or ways that you would like to improve on
Yeah.
your systems, just kind of moving forward, ways you'd like to grow in this area?
Yeah, I think that my one thing was just as I was talking about, recognizing that some meals are better than others to set in the fridge, because there definitely have been times in the past 2 years that I've made meals and I've meal prepped it and I've stuck it in the fridge. And 3 days later, I look at it and I'm like, that just doesn't look good anymore. Um, like the stuff is good when it's warm and it's sitting in the fridge for a while. It's not as good. So, with that being said, I've made a point to try to have meals that can stay in the fridge, that are going to stay good. And that has been some trial and error. Um, and then just knowing myself and understanding myself, um, I think it's important to make meals that I am going to enjoy. And so if I'm making a meal that I just know I am not going to be a huge fan of, or I may be being a little bit adventurous with, that typically isn't a good idea because most of the time I'll eat half of it and then the other half will end up going bad or something. So that's something that I've had to try and be conscientious of, is just knowing myself and knowing what I like and what I don't like. Um, and so I've definitely had to work on that. And I think I've come to a spot where I know what I like and I know myself. And so it's definitely been easier.
What about vegetables?
Yeah.
Do you like to eat vegetables? How do you work in vegetables?
Yeah, I love vegetables. And I was t touched on this a little bit earlier. But sometimes it's going to be important to split up your ingredients. So
Yeah,
again, I'm not going to want to have a hot cucumber on my
exactly.
meal most of the time. And so I think it's definitely important to split up ingredients with some meals. And again, I prioritize just making my meals easy. So if I just prepare my ingredients, then I can put them together in under 5 minutes. That's a win to me. And so with vegetables specifically, I love vegetables. I will eat almost any vegetable. My favorite are probably cucumbers, tomatoes, and spinach. So I had spinach in my dinner last night, and you can make sauteed spinach for 2 weeks if it stays good. So that's one of my go-tos. And then cucumber. I'm a cucumber gal. I like cucumber.
So, do you have any verses that you think of when you're that kind of keep you grounded when you're thinking about food?
Yeah, I don't I don't know if I focus on specific verses. The one that probably stands out the most to me is that just that my body is a temple.
Yeah,
That my purpose is to glorify, and I can glorify the Lord through
yeah,
that.
yeah.
And so my body is a temple and I should be fueling it in a way that is glorifying to Him. I should be taking care of myself so that I can glorify Him. And that's definitely something that I meditate on per se. Um, and something that I think about if I am in a rush, and sometimes I'm in a rush and I just can't.
Yeah.
But if I'm in a rush and I am wanting to take the easy way out, sometimes I'm like, you know what? My body, I should fuel it because the Lord has given me this gift, and so I should take care of it as best as I can.
Like First Corinthians 6:19 and 20,
Mhm.
that your
Yeah.
body is a temple of the
Yeah.
Lord, and that you want to honor the
Hmm.
Lord with your body. And then just in Ephesians 5:29, we feed and care for our bodies. Like trying to drive a car without gas, like, how can the car drive without gas unless maybe it's electric, but you need some kind of
Exactly.
fuel.
But
And
even
so
then, you need
you can
fuel.
serve the Lord better when you have fueled your body and your I love that focus. And well, you've really learned a lot.
Yeah.
19 years old, and you've been working on this. You're learning skills in the kitchen and um, time management, you're managing your money. I wondered if you had any closing advice or encouragement, any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners today.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my biggest advice to anyone that I'm talking to about cooking or meal prepping in general is to just be creative and be inventive. Because cooking is definitely not you don't always have to stay on a script. You can go off and you can be adventurous. You can try out new things. You can figure out what you like, what you don't like. And that's what I have done. And that's what has really helped me to understand, I guess, how to cook. A lot more is just go for it. Just be adventurous. If it sounds yummy, throw it together and find out. And so that's been
Sausage and
probably
cottage cheese. So,
exactly. And yeah, I didn't expect it to be good, but I was like, wait a second, this is very yummy. Um, and so you'll find stuff like that. You'll learn what seasonings work. You'll learn what tastes good together. It'll be good. And then my second piece of advice is specifically in college or when you are busy and you're running low on time, is just to make it easy for yourself. Because eating is or should be a big priority. Um, we are busy, and so it's really easy to just forget. And so making it easy for yourself, whether that's through meal prepping or preparing ingredients or just understanding kind of what you're going to eat in your head, um, ahead of time is going to save you time, is going to save you a lot of effort, sometimes stress. That means working ahead. And yeah, that's what's worked for me.
um, Anna, thank you so much for sharing your experience and that encouragement just to get started, be
Yeah.
creative, and don't be afraid to fail. You may
Yeah.
find your sausage and cottage cheese in that process and refine the process as you go along. But really appreciate you. Thank you
Yeah.
for coming on Talkie, and thank you for making me an aunt.
Of
I love
course.
you, Anna Banana.
Love you too. Thank you
Joining
again.
us for Talkie. Would like to invite everyone back in a couple of weeks for a talkie. And if you have anything you'd like to share, maybe some recipes or anything, feel free to drop those in the comments. Please like and subscribe and share. Anyone that's coming to mind that you think may find this episode helpful, please pass it along. And if you would like to come on to Talkie, please find that link in the description and or submit your brewing questions. And until then, thanks for joining us for Talkie.